Hey, welcome back, guys. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Couch of Science, and this is a very special episode dedicated to women in science. My name is Michele. I will be your host for tonight, with the help of some other very prepared people, as for example, Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Michele. How's it going?
How are you? All good?
I'm very good.
So, Michael, as always, you know that we like to warm up our audience before to introduce our special guests with a small pill, a pill of science that in this case it's a very particular one. And what you're going to talk about today in this pill?
Yeah, of course. Today we're going to talk about women in science and their representation. So I'm going to go through some statements. I'm just going to share my screen. Here it is. You can see it. Perfect. So we're going to have some guests and you'll discover it afterwards. But first, let's talk about women in science throughout history. So yes, as every time when we talk about science and history, we need to pass by ancient Greece and Roman Empire. At this time, women were not put aside when talking about science. Nevertheless, they were considered as not adapted to science, but they were more encouraged to make children. Some women were renowned for their intellectual talents, but were considered as exceptions. And here goes around the social norm and its domination by masculinity. During the Middle Age, science and in general knowledge was restricted to men, and the access was closed to women. Thus, when universities were created from the 11th century, women were put aside. So during the Enlightenment period, some women had the access to scientific knowledge, but only if they were from a rich and notorious family, always one step behind men. So whenever an innovation was made on science, engineering, scholarship, women were less considered and the priority was given to men. For example, during Napoleon Bonaparte's reign in France and Europe, women from bourgeoisie and aristocracy were not authorized to work or to study in renowned schools. Thus, they were excluded from the professional world. These inequalities perpetuated during ages. Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, I have to interrupt you because I think there is a problem with the slide. We can see just this first page, but I don't know with the other ones. Can you try again? Or probably, I think that if you change your screen, you are going exactly. If you do something like this, we lost the slides.
I can see. Okay, can you see it now?
No. Cool. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we cannot. But you can try again to see if you can go on with the presentation. In the meantime, guys, for all the audience, if you have any questions, we will have a small Q&A session at the end after the nice presentation that our guests are going to do. And if you want to communicate us, you can do either through Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, following our links. And I think that, Michael, you are still struggling a bit. I think that the problem is that you cannot keep more than one tab open. I don't know. What I suggest that maybe we
can continue without the slides actually, or can you not see the slides? I think they're online. It's just maybe your screen that is not good. I have them. Like it didn't move, but it's still online.
Okay. Just stay on these slides. So in the meantime, we can discuss. Sorry to interrupt you. So go on, please.
That's okay. So yeah, as I said, these inequalities perpetuated during the ages left a strong mark in history as it is told now, and might also have led us to the situation we still are now. But there were some courageous women that took a step forward. Here are a few examples of some outliers. Of courageous women that took a step forward. So yeah, they're considered outliers scientifically talking, but they should rather be called role models or pathfinders. So yes, we will talk about Marie Curie. That is one of them. So the first one on the very left is Taputi. She was the intendant of a palace in ancient Mesopotamia. She is considered as the first chemist woman and created the process of fragrance distillation. The second one you can see here is Fiano. She was a philosopher, a mathematician, and a doctor in the ancient Greece. She was also the wife of Pythagoras and took his legacy of the school when he died. The third one you can see in the middle is Ada Lovelace. She is an English mathematician she was an English mathematician in the 19th century. She is renowned for writing in footnotes while reading an article from Federico Luigi on analytical machines in 1842. And this footnote was the very first computational code, so she is considered as the first computer programmer in history. And nowadays, Ada Lovelace has her own coding language named in her honor, Ada. Here it goes, Marie Curie. Here she is. She was the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize. It was in 1903 for her research in radioactivity. She is also one of the only 2 persons to have multiple Nobel Prizes in more than one discipline. So for her, it was physics at first and then chemistry. Last but not least, the one you can see on the very right is Margaret Hamilton. She was a computer scientist working on the Apollo 11 space expedition. And when Apollo 11 approached the moon, the landing program crashed. Fortunately, Margaret insisted on creating a backup program allowing the automatic landing of the spaceship. By doing that, she saved the first human expedition to the moon, even if she might also have prevented from another piece of art done by Stanley Kubrick. You're gonna see a link that is displayed down to discover more women that changed the face of the world. I encourage you to have a look on womenyoushouldknow.net. It's a very nice website that gathers stories like these and talk about women nowadays as well. Talking about maths and computers, here is a misconception, for example. In 2008, a study based on a test passed by 300,000 teenagers in 40 different countries showed that the performances in mathematics were linked to emancipation level of women. This pointed out the influence of education and cultural levels, such as self-esteem or gender stereotypes, when talking about maths. These studies actually question the ideology of biological determinism often used to explain the underrepresentation of women in science. Talking about representation of women in science, let's give it a quick look. So here it is. Normally you can see my screen. One metaphor that it can be used to describe the fact that women are underrepresented in scientific career is to think of a leaky pipeline, carrying students from secondary school throughout university and go on to job in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So these figures you can see presents the UNESCO data from around the world, evidencing the underrepresentation of women throughout scientific career. We see the situations goes from a near 50-50 in high school to less and less women as career progresses. And this is everyone's choice to make that change. And as a man, I can offer you a few of the ways men can help this situation to improve in science by being good allies, or as much as they can be. So they can ask and demand diversity and bias training for everyone in the position of hiring other people to make sure women and minorities have their chance to be recruited, trained, and promoted. They can also nominate the female colleagues to review scientific outputs, to give presentations, to receive prizes. Opposed to male, they can oppose to men panels as well to help improve the problems such as the impact factor bias. For the head of labs and principal investigators, they can be a mentor and openly discuss these matters with their students and staff. One very interesting, actually, this image come from an interview done by Professor Jonathan Eisen. You can go to the QR code to check all the references. And Professor Eisen was saying this very wise sentence that I want to end my speech with. Here it is. If we want science to be the best and cutting edge, doing new and interesting things, then why have we potentially abandoned half of the population? So here, I present several reasons that can lead to women underrepresentation in science, even if they certainly vary between fields and countries. It is still a widespread problem. I'm going to drop the mic here, Michele, and let you introduce the guest we have for today.
Thank you so much, Michael. Was really interesting, and you raise, of course, a lot of topics that I think that we are going to face with our guests. So for now, I will just let you go in the background, helping with the technical and logistics point, and I will welcome. Thank you again, Michael.
You're very welcome. I will leave you here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will welcome Renata. Hi, Renata.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Michele.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine. Very fine. And Renata will be my co-host for the rest of the evening to have also another point of view for the discussion that we are going to have with our guest. So without waste again more time, I want to introduce the two guests. First, we have Dr. Ann Van der Jeugd. I hope that I pronounced correctly. She's a neurocognitive researcher at KU Leuven, and she's the secretary of Bewise, which she's going to explain us what it is. Hello, Anna.
Hello, Mika.
Hello.
How are you?
Nice, thank you.
Thank you so much to be with us. And then the second guest, Professor Tatjana Parac Voght. She's a professor of chemistry at KU Leuven and former president of Bewise. Welcome, Tatiana. I think that you are muted. Okay, no.
Yeah, happy to be
here.
I'm fine.
Perfect. Hello, Tatiana. Thank you so much for being here. I'm calling you by your first name, but probably I shouldn't. So first of all, apologize for that for both of you. But I since we are here enjoying a beer and discussing about science, I think that it's not just, that's a very nice beer there. So
Cheers.
first of all, thank you to be here. I don't know if you want to say something about yourself before going through the nice discussion that we are going to have tonight regarding women in science.
Yes.
So I let you the stage.
If I'm allowed to introduce Bewise and myself?
Yes. Please,
Absolutely.
please.
Can I take over the screen then?
Yes. Just prepare the screen, and then I can just put you the screen in, but it should automatically jump inside. But let's see if it's
Can
going
you
to
see
be.
my screen? No.
Not yet.
1 second. Now.
Okay, now I think here we go.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
So,
Perfect.
Hello. Both Professor Tatiana and I are working at KU Leuven. And actually, Bewise stands for Belgian Women in Science. And it was founded in 2003 as a grassroots movement. If you want more information about us, you can find us on the internet. And so we have members from all Belgian universities. So it's a unique national platform. So we have Dutch-speaking persons, but also French-speaking. So we're actually also part of several other organizations. We also represent Bewise at several occasions, which can be international conferences. But the main aim is actually promoting the position of women in science. And this is something that we do through specific actions. For instance, by organizing focused lunches, which are then female role models, talking about the problems they encountered during their career, but also about just like work-life balance, all these things that are also important for men, of course. So also men are very welcome to our meetings. We also have programs to enhance actually the smaller children. So for instance, we have the program from KU Leuven. Professor Tatjana Parac Voght did this actually, so a cosmetic chemistry workshop in Brussels. Also, since 2 years, we are organizing together with Solvay the Girls Leading in Science concours. And so the first prize is actually free university the first year. So this is also targeting younger girls. So Bewise is very diverse. We're aiming at several, let's say, age groups. Yeah. But the main key is getting more women into STEM and science. Yeah. Sorry.
You lost? Okay, perfect. Sorry.
Just to introduce Bewise, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Was
Yeah.
very interesting, especially I think that you underlined the fact that all this is not just for women, and this is sometimes a very strange and wrong concept that with this kind of initiative sometimes seems to came out when actually it's not absolutely true. And so first of all, I will say to our audience, if you want to ask any question regarding the activities of Bewise or the experience of our two guests, please go on. You can do right now on Facebook and YouTube. In the meantime, actually, I want to know also a bit about our second guest, Tatiana, professor in chemistry at KU Leuven, and former president of Bewise. So would you like to talk a bit about your experience, your past experience work-wise, but also related to Bewise?
Yes. So, I mean, I am obviously professor of chemistry, and I noticed that there is something wrong with my environment when for instance, I'm the only full professor of chemistry, female, at my department among 35 colleagues. So I'm very often the only woman at many meetings. So I have this sort of desire really to change things because I think some of my best students, some of my best PhD students are and were female, and these girls somehow tend to disappear, and there is something, I think, wrong in the system. So that led me also to develop mentoring program at our Faculty of Science, where we actually now are specifically aiming to mentor female researchers who are interested in continuing academic career and give them advice. So this is one of the things. I'm also the president of Diversity Council at KU Leuven, where we also tackle many issues, not only with gender, but with diversity in general, because KU Leuven as a university aims to be more diverse than it is, and it's not an easy task. So this Diversity Council comes up with, we are trying to come with initiatives and policies that then advise the rector and vice rectors how this can be implemented. So, as I said, I have interest in promoting diversity and gender diversity also from the from the KU Leuven side, but also by really developing the campaigns, going on the field and mentoring coaches, mentoring people. Through Bewise, we also have a mentoring program. I mean, I don't know if you mentioned, but whoever actually is interested in getting advice, we have excellent mentors who can provide it. This is all, done by volunteers. It's all volunteering, basically, that we are doing. So we all have passion for the same thing, which is important, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, in fact, you say something that I experienced myself. I studied in KU Leuven, but I think it's something that you can see in a lot of universities, that PhDs, postdocs, even students. I remember that in my master there were more women than men. And it was also, I have to say that most of the time they are more committed than men, and they are definitely better student than myself. I'm a terrible student. I was a terrible student, but in general, I saw that there was a really commitment and passion for the topic, for the subjects. And then something Michael just explained a bit this regarding this situation, the situation that after for one reason or another there is a decrease which became dramatic at a certain point of women involved in I would say high level of science. In your opinion and in your experience, why this is like this? Which are the main reason why we have this leak?
Well, I think maybe I say something and then I can tell. I think one of the reasons is also lack of good role models, because if you have professors that are 90% male, you are sort of subconsciously, the message that you're delivering to your students is that this is a job for men. I mean, even if it's not the case, but this is a really implicit message that many, it's very difficult for people to, as obviously you cannot be what you cannot see. So if you cannot see that there are many female professors, it's very difficult for these young, bright girls to sort of try to become something which the system is not really giving them positive signal that they can do. So I think this is one of the reasons, but it's a very complex, you're right, it's a very complex issue that it's not that easy to solve. I mean, I agree with that. I think very often, therefore I think this mentoring helps. I mean, some mentor who tells you, well, you can do it. I mean, I did my PhD in the States, and there I think this sort of like, they're much more, I think, promoting this, they're much more, they have this positive reinforcement of women in general. And I had excellent mentors, male mentors, who always were sort of very proactive and telling me, yeah, you can go for it, you can do it. They were supportive. And this is what I think often women at that stage of career, when they cannot decide whether they are good for a job or not, they need this. They need somebody who will give them the push and say, come on, go for it. You're better than you think. You are good for the job. I think the men in general have this innate self-confidence often. They don't need really, I mean, often to tell them, I mean, but women more often tend to do it.
Can I add something
very
to
true,
that? Yeah. So when I was at the Women in Science event at KU Leuven last year, I was in a discussion panel, and one of the members was actually from the hiring board, from VIB. so VIP, Institute for Biotechnology, so really high level. And even at this high level, when they were hiring professors, so she was in the hiring board for new faculty members, she said that women negotiate less about the salary, about the package of the lab, even at that level, that they can make it to professorship, there's still less negotiating than men do.
Yeah.
That's an opener for me. Still then, it's not only the imposter syndrome, but it's really something that we are like,
It's a deeper rooted problem, it seems, that just, goes on with us all throughout our careers, and even if you reach these high level positions.
Correct. All 3 women that they hired, they took the first offer that they gave them. And the men kept on negotiating. So it's even at that level, that you still have this, I made it, I should be happy now, and I take,
I think it starts from the early childhood, and I think there are many studies to show that in general, girls were raised or educated to be good girls, to please and to behave and not really, be a good girl, there is this saying. While boys in general, are more competitive and sort of more, and this continues, it just amplifies with age. So I think it's deeply embedded, or was. I hope the younger generation are less, that girls are less accommodating than generations before us were. But it's historical. Imagine women were not allowed to study, until 100 years ago, something like that, right? So you could at the first women that got degree in Cambridge or Oxford were in the beginning of the 1900 something. So this is, not that far. We have come a long way. So it's historical as well. And I think that new generations are probably, for them, it's of course normal that they can study and then they can be equal and so on. But it took a lot of fight to get there, actually. It's like in the last 20, 30 years, a lot of happened. We were not allowed to vote, for instance. Women were not allowed to vote in Switzerland. It's a very developed country. I think until 1970 something. This is after I was born, right? So this is, we're talking about relatively,
recent time. Relatively recent time.
We've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
If you see the diagram, I think it was shown in the previous presentation that we have, we start with equal number of students and then number of women is decreasing. If you look at the different academic levels, and number of men is increasing. This scissors diagram is getting smaller, but if you simply do mathematical modeling, it will take another, 250 years until, if you go by that pace, if you just simply allow the system to develop. So it's slow change unless we do something which is much more proactive or radical.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And Renata, do you have any questions?
No, but I was wondering, because Anne has some other slides to show us, and maybe this is a good time. To go a bit deeper in the conversation, in the discussion. Yes.
And again, I remind to our audience, guys, I see that there is a lot of you there. If you want to write a question, if you have some questions for our guest, please go on. Just let us know. Don't be shy.
Yeah, so these are some numbers from European countries, actually. And you can see here clearly that Belgium is at the back end of having female professors, actually. Here is this scissors diagram. Everybody knows it, I think. So we start out actually an equal amount of female and male students, but then suddenly we have this drop off, and only 7% makes it to full professor. So something happens, of course. It's like, what are the leaks in the pipeline, right? So the first one is, of course, a lack of support. There are other reasons, of course, having a family, for instance. And this is something that now actually is making, I think, an extra gap in the already leaky pipeline. In the COVID crisis now, we see that a lot of women are taking up their care responsibilities. Something inside every woman, I think, to take care of your family. So this is very natural. We also don't complain about it. I like to take care of my children, but in the meanwhile, I have not submitted one single paper the past 3 months. And to keep on track, I should be able to submit at least 2 papers a year. And I'm not even on tenure track. So I mean, just for a regular postdoc or even a PhD student. So this is something that was noted by several people around the world. Also different fields of research, that men are actually submitting 50% more than usually. So I'm not saying it's a black and white situation, but you have to face, here there's the gap is getting more wider, I think, that men sometimes now have this more opportunity to write from home and not being in the lab. And for women, they take care of the children and do the teaching at home. So I think it's something that faculty also needs to take into consideration, also to be competitive for grants. A lot of grants have now, the deadline has been postponed, but still, I am submitting a grant from a philanthropic institute this Saturday. It was postponed for 1 month, but I mean, what more can you do? So this is really something that is worrying me, not only me. And this issue had been addressed also at KU Leuven. So let's see what happens. These are some reasons, of course, like Mikael mentioned, there are historical reasons. And the stereotyping, of course. I have this little exercise for you. So this next text, you can read the slide. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Just, you have to, if you read it and then...
Okay, a 9-year-old boy is riding in the car with his father, and suddenly his father loses control over the car and hits the tree in the side of the road. The father is dead on spot, and the boy survives the accident with severe brain injuries. He's transported to the nearby hospital and urgent operation. The top surgeon enters the operation room, looks at the boy and says, "I can't operate him, he's my son." Who is this possible?
We assume that the surgeon is a man. You have to be honest. In this case, it was a woman. So these are stereotyping already from early on, right? So women have high expectations, but we still have these social expectations for boys and girls that they are very different. Women tend to be more caretaking, so they end up in the caretaking jobs. We can see it now also. If we see on television, all these COVID experts, they're all men, to be honest. But the women are doing the job in hospitals.
Most of them. Yeah, that's true.
And also often the lab managers, behind every professor are at least 2 or 3 lab managers that are doing the job. And it's often the women. So because we are very good in multitasking, and so with all these things, so we are not visible, also on the media. So that's something I would just want to address. All these things, actually. So you have to have a supportive environment. Also, for me, it has been a struggle. It's very hard also, because we are often obliged to have some experience abroad. So I did actually 3 short postdocs abroad, 1 year in Australia. So I took my family with me. My husband stayed home with the kids, which was fine for a year. But then I needed some more experience, so we went to USA. So again, he followed me. For me, this is already a luxury that my husband can follow me. But I can imagine for a lot of people, it must be very hard to actually have a supportive family. And these are some things now also with the conferences, with the COVID, we cannot have our conferences abroad. So how are they going to solve this? So you need your publications, you need your invited lectures. So all these things, I think it's now really hard. So something we have to take in account also. If you have to, if you are in a board, or you have to, if you get several applicants, so you see the CVs and this gap in the CV now, I think I will consider it as a parental leave. I have 2 kids, but I think the COVID is my 3rd baby because I stayed home for 3 months now. To be honest, I didn't do anything in 3 months. I had a child of 2 years. I have a child from 6 years. He was in the 1st year of school, so reading, writing, mathematics. So to be honest, this COVID is my 3rd child, I will have to say, my CV, because there's a gap of 3 months, right? It's not a writing retreat. For some people, they can actually write up all these papers from home. I had to teach my children and take care of the toddler. So it's not only a negative.
No.
Negative, but so it's really. Yeah,
see.
sorry, I'm gonna quit here.
No, go on. I thought
No,
that was.
it's the last slide, so.
It's the last slide. Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to show my personal experience that it's.
Yes. Please go on. Please
Yeah,
go on.
well, it's been really hot. And I have at least we have a job in academia. A lot of us have a job, so you don't have to complain.
Indeed.
But,
and you mentioned briefly that KU Leuven was trying to address this specific situation of the COVID-19 crisis. Can you tell us a bit more about it? What are they trying to do?
No, there's actually, Tatiana can maybe say a bit more about it because she's in this gender.
Okay, great. Yeah.
No, but because as I mentioned, I'm the chair of the Diversity Council at KU Leuven, and this indeed concern has been brought up by the KU Leuven Diversity Office because they got quite a number of calls from female researchers who were complaining exactly what about Ann said, and they were wondering whether there will be some sort of adjustment or whether that will be taken into account when their, for instance, tenure track positions were about to be evaluated and they're looking into that. Of course, that all depends how long this lasts. They said, okay, if you just 2-3 months, then probably, not a big deal, but it seems that it'll be lasting longer. So now HR department of KU Leuven is, they're aware of it. What exactly they will do, we don't know, but they're very much aware of the issue. But I think also it hits young men as well. The men as well. I also have some male colleagues who also have a young. Older men also equally suffer as women there.
But parents in science.
I can imagine that unfortunately, in the case that there is a couple at home during the lockdown and they have kids, small kids that are around the house and they have to work, it sometimes, most of the time, is the woman that takes action. And this is something very. I think it's eradicated, as you said, eradicating the culture, and would be probably, if we wait, that slowly goes out of the culture, is going to take so much time. So we need to do active action. So I totally agree with that.
I think we need modern men. I think we need to educate boys. I have a son who is 19, and I try to. I think it all starts from home. That you can also tell them, come on. You and your sister are equal. You do exactly the same thing. So it's it takes not only educating women, but also educating men that they should, or young men that they should help more or be.
Definitely. Yes. We have to do our part. It's not something that
it's everyone's problem, actually.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it's not, because I think sometimes, and it happens as well with problems with other minorities, that it seems that it's our role to educate other people on the problem, but actually no, it's a society problem. So everyone has to do their part in actively looking into it and learning about it and learning how they can be allies and they can help. If we're talking about women, if we're talking about minorities, in the end, it's usually expected that we, from our side, educate the others, let's say. But this is just more work on top of everything that is already unbalanced. So I think that's another point as well that is interesting to bring up.
No, definitely. So we have a question that I think we can share from Shorok. Thanks for the nice talk. Thank you. I really would like to get more advices from the guests about life-work balance. This is a tough one. Do you have any suggestion, any advice for Shorok?
Shorok. Shorok actually. Hi, Shorok. Shorok is my PhD student, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Shorok, I think, advice, I don't know if it's but I think delegating certain things is, it's something that it has been helpful for me. I think, if you can delegate something to your husband or to whatever, to the school, the more things you can trust other people around you to do for you, to help you. It will give you more time for your, I mean, you know, to do whatever you want to do, whether it's work or is it private life or so on. I think, but life-work balance, and what would you say? You have younger children, mine are big. I mean, I forgot how difficult it was when they were young. It is difficult. I mean, especially if you don't have a family to support you, as I think Shorok doesn't have, or Ann also have much. I mean, yeah, it's not easy, I think, but yeah, support. You need some support system, either friends, maybe. You can also ask friends to help you to take care of your boy for a few hours. That will give you time to read a book or go for a walk or whatever. Just, I think we need, yeah, the support system, with either family or friends or whatever. I mean, husband, family. Yeah, that's not.
About that, what is your opinion? Do you think that the government can do something about this? I mean, probably one of the biggest problems of science is that is a very challenging environment where you have to deal with, as Ann was saying, that you need to deal with the papers, you need to deal with publications, but in moments like the lockdown, on the moments when a scientist is in maternity leave or in paternity leave, he cannot do that because he needs to take care of kids. So probably we need to change this dogma, this way to do things. But do you think that governments can help?
It's not. It actually, this is being taken into account because I was for many years in the commission for this FWO. So this is the Flemish Science Foundation. So the organization that gives fellowships and money and so on. And there they really look at the fact if you had a child, that counts as a 1 year of non-activity. If you have 2 children, it's a 2 years of non-activity. In theory, right? So there's a law that says that. So government did say that every child actually basically costs you 1 year of non-activity, in research. But the problem is that you always have to make those commissions to make decisions aware, because they don't really, there is a law, but, so you need a watchdog there, somebody who really, and because I know I was in a commission, I was very often pointing to this, you cannot judge the CV of this woman, the same of this man. They look at the number of publications. Oh yeah, she had, 5 publications less. I said, yeah, but she had 3 children, right? So I think you have to somehow, so you always need to remind commissions and whoever makes decision that they have to take into account, family situation and the children and so on. Law is there. I think law is trying to be fair. I mean, the federal government is trying to be fair, but it's just implementation, which often is not perfect because people just overlook it. They say, yeah, sure, we were fair, but obviously they often don't pay attention to those things. Yeah. But, yeah. So
it's a very complicated situation, and so you are mentioning something interesting. So the evaluation of a CV for a researcher is most of the time based on the number of articles.
Yeah.
And these actually sometimes will fight and with your life, your everyday life. So the balance between work and life. So maybe this question it's very difficult to reply. But do you have an idea how these can change? So how we can select researchers not based on the number of publications that they have, but based on what we should understand the value of a researcher. There is for sure another way. I'm sure there is another way, which is not just a quantitative way,
I think we have to look at the person as a whole. We have to look at what the person. I am very much in favor. I always say it's easy to be good once, meaning you are a good student at one institution and you did well. Okay, great. It's maybe because you really are great, but maybe it's because of support system, maybe you were lucky. But if you then go and do PhD somewhere, and then you also are shown to be excellent, and then you go and do postdoc somewhere else, and then you also do well. So it means people who are excellent or do well wherever you put them, or wherever they are. These are the people you want. I think regardless of how many publications, you have to sort of look for people who are able to adapt, scientists in general, adapt and to perform well, regardless of the sort of environment in which they're found. And therefore, I think this mobility, international mobility, is very important. It means people are changing groups, they're changing topics, and if you manage to actually be doing well, do well wherever you end up, it speaks for you. And commissions look at those things. And it's, okay, publications are important, but then also you look whether somebody's a first author, that's very important, that's not the same, I mean, as being somewhere in the middle all the time. What is the impact? How novel is that? So it's not just quantitative. I think there are also other criteria that are being looked at. So,
okay, that's really really good to know.
Yeah.
It is not because sometimes this is the I'm afraid of this, that since we have a life outside work, and sometimes we want to also enjoy our life, not just produce.
Life is to be enjoyed. That work is to be enjoyed and life is to be enjoyed. And this is absolutely, I'm fully with you. Yeah.
And actually, I have a question for Anne. That you have small kids from what I understood.
6 years and 2 years. Yes.
Okay. So I think that for you and for them, this lockdown was tough.
But it was fine. So, like Tatiana said, I survived in Australia with the kids, and also in America, and had 3 papers from 1 year Australia. So I managed well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
So I mean, it was actually it's not about the kids are not the problem, because I wanted to have kids, right? It's the thing that the employee maybe thinks that, hey, there's a gap now in my CV. But to be honest, I already showed that I'm productive. So, and I also have other, let's say, strong points. It's not only about having publications, but also being able to talk to people, set up collaborations. Actually, there's also an argument about publications that's also for women, it's in their disadvantage that you're less acknowledged for their ideas in the author list.
Yes.
It's also something I have to learn to negotiate about having my name on a publication. Often, we have, as a PhD student, you have an ID. You're the daily supervisor of a master student, but your name is not written on the paper. So all these small things make that you end up with less publications sometimes. So it's all these details, but in the end, it makes a huge difference. So you have to...
No, definitely.
Yeah.
But this is also very important. So looking for not only for a good mentor, but also for a good PI. So if you do your postdoc abroad, I can say that from my own experience, I made a good choice, but I also made a less good choice. So it's really important that you know the lab before you leave, that you know where you will end up. You talk to the postdocs first, who work there already, because otherwise, you can have a nasty experience. But it's important, it's a lesson to be learned. So choose your career wisely. Choose the people you surround yourself with, the lab, the environment, the mentors. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Fully agree.
Yeah.
That's true.
It can save you a lot of problems afterwards. Sorry.
So we have another question coming from the audience. Michele, if you can put it on.
I saw
so thanks for the talk. It's Leah. Thanks for the talk. My question is, how do you recognize and prove a sexist behavior in the work environment? That's tricky. Recognize is easy. Prove might not be that easy. Can maybe Tatiana start?
This is, if you feel it's sexist, then probably it is, right? So I think you're the one who sort of feels that there is something wrong there. The question is obviously, what do you do with that? So I don't know at which university you are, but every university has, at least KU Leuven, I think that I'm sure that all other universities in Belgium have the same thing. have possibilities where you can report that, and it's safe. It can be anonymous even. You don't even have to give your name if you are afraid of whatever reasons to do so, but you can report it. If you think this went way too far, you can report it. You can also address the person who behaves in a sexist way. You can just say, well, you cannot talk to me like this. I mean, I think you should not be afraid to tell somebody, I don't like to be talked like that. So I think that, I don't know, what do you exactly mean by sexist, but there are many different ways to deal with it. Starting from, as I said, addressing it yourself to reporting it if you think it's really worth or serious enough that it can be damaging for your career or for other people in general. So, but it should not be tolerated. If you think it's not right, you should do something about it. I mean,
Yes. Anne, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing positive to add here. I have my own experience, but I'm not going to disclose it here. Yeah, I cannot say anything about it, but yeah, you can go to it's called in Dutch the ombudsdienst. I don't know how to call it, but you can do it anonymous, but it happened. You have cases where you're not wanted there, yeah. I cannot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
really
hard.
It's complicated because it seems very straightforward to just say, just go ahead and speak out and report, but we know that it's not as easy as this, and there might be very serious consequences for us, for our careers and etc. So it's really tricky. I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. I think that my question would be, what is the situation in Belgium regarding this, in your opinion? There is the society, the community, or the university per se, they are helping with this. They are very supportive. They are not. I don't want to go in deep in your personal experience, but in general, what is your opinion? Maybe with through Bewise, you faced several times this topic, and what do you think? It's the situation in Belgium is good, because I know from Italy the situation in this case is very bad. Still in work environment and also universities, it's still very, very bad, and there is not such a very good system in universities and communities to help women in this case. Also because we have a lot of women, they are anti-feminist in Italy. Still, there is a lot of women that they have this way of thinking that is very biased by the men that actually they have around.
I think we have to make a distinction between sexist comments, which are per se not illegal. They're unpleasant, definitely, but they are not really illegal. So you can't really, I mean, file a claim. You could, but I mean, it's something which is societal, and it happens, I think, for all levels of society, that people are making remarks about women, which are not inappropriate, right? So this is one thing, and I think this is a cultural thing that we really have to have, make sure that we talk to each other in a respectful way and don't make sexist comments in general, or racist comments, or any comments which can be offensive to the other person. That's one thing. So we are talking about the sexist comments, but another thing, which is another extreme, is really harassment. I mean, sexual harassment is much more, I think, that's very serious, actually. And I think if something like that happens, and the problem is in many systems is that the burden of proof is on a victim to prove that this is the case. So I think you have to have evidence which is sound, and there are systems. I think the universities don't tolerate that. I think there are ways, if you if you want to pursue it, I think you should, but it's not an easy fight to fight. Yes, it's very exhausting because you have to, but I mean, not impossible. I don't know. I mean, I was very lucky there, so I mean, I can't really complain. I mean, I don't have any personal experience to share, but I mean, I can imagine it's not easy. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The problem goes much deeper than we can imagine, for sure. It's if we start discussing it, it's always the case, right? When we start discussing these things and we just start putting in perspective all the sorts of facets of a problem, and it's really like there's so much to be tackled, but hopefully we can step by step go towards some improvement. And we have a couple of questions coming from the audience. I'm going to start with Aesa. I don't know her name. It's a she. What's your opinion on positive discrimination? I've been asked as a PhD student to chair a session in a conference because it would be good if a woman does it. Made me feel I did not deserve it. Maybe we start with Anne.
This sounds very familiar. Yes, for sure. So, yeah, it's on so many levels. So they have to hire now women, people from color. I mean, yes, but you feel that you're not acknowledged for what you can, but about how you look like, which gender you have. But to be honest, I don't think really for me, it's an issue, because when you go to a conference and you're asked to be chairing in a session, you have to choose you because you're the expert. No, I mean, how can I say it? I went to so many conferences with only panels, so only men in the panel. So now they're at least trying to find women. Or I actually signaled the problem also to the conferences, so also the other way around. So if you see a conference with only men in the panel, you have to write to the conference and say, like, I'm not coming, because it's all about money, right? If they don't have people coming to the conference, they don't make money. So it works both ways. It's a difficult question, because you cannot say you're hired because you're women, right? I mean, or chosen because you're a woman. You should be the best in your field, or not the best, but I mean the leading in the field. So maybe it's again like the imposter syndrome. I think you deserve to be there.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would say that.
The question is maybe,
You know, the way you should look at it, I mean, I know exactly this feeling. I think all women who share this. When I became, I don't know, the chair of the FWO panel, and I heard via through some colleagues, of course, I mean, you know, you became a chair because you're a woman. And of course, obviously, I took that very personal. I didn't feel good about it. And I talked to a friend who is a male, who is a lawyer. And I said, yeah, I mean, you know, why would people, I mean, is that true? I mean, and then he said one very smart thing. He said, well, you know what, you should respond to that. He says, okay, in the past, you know, you guys were chairs because you were men. So, and now I'm chair because I'm a woman. And I think it was a very sort of, you know, way to look at it. Of course, I mean, in the past, they would per se become asked to chair the panel or be because it's men. Now, okay, it's our turn, and I think you should not see it as a sort of like I'm not competent, but I do it because I'm a woman. Of course, you're competent, and you get to do it because they remember that women can also do it. Of course, women can do it, and they just know. Yeah.
It can become like a sexist insult. Actually, they just say this to let you feel you know, an imposter, as Anne was saying before. So maybe it's also something that it's not even a positive discrimination, it's just a sexist comment, but in another form, you know.
Maybe they should just not mention it. They just want to tell you, come on, and don't mention the gender. I mean, you know, they do it, they want you because you're the right person to chair. I think this is the better way to do it. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's a nice message. Go on.
Can I
Kelly.
add something
Sorry.
to that? So
yes,
once
please.
I was also hired as a chair, and then I took over the thing, and I had the females, I'd invite the speakers for the session, and I only took females. And then somebody noticed it, and then he said, like, "Oh, this is sexist. You don't have any men in your panel." And I loved it. So yeah, I got a comment on Twitter. even.
That's to
So,
compensate
for a
all
man,
of the
it's like,
manuals
oh,
that
it's
we've
only
been
women.
through. Yeah.
What a discrimination. I was like, oh.
No,
but I mean,
indeed.
you know.
And I think we have another question, maybe is the last one for tonight, then we will wrap up. But this is very interesting, and maybe it's something that we can leave with a positive note, maybe. And is from Cedric, that is asking, with all what is going on the last years, gender equality, racism, classism, sexism, do you think that the next youth generation, maybe us as graduate students, hopefully late as professors, will be better prepared to solve this women-man bias in science?
Yes. Definitely yes. No, I think we need men like Cedric or Alexander. I don't know what's his name. Cedric. No, we need, I mean, definitely men on our side. And I think there are many modern men who are definitely pro. I always say, I mean, we should all be feminists. I mean, I bought to my son, who is 19 years old, a T-shirt that says "We should all be feminists." So this boy, I think, I think you need the men on your side, because I mean, the problem with all this, I mean, gender things, like, I mean, is that it's often women who talk among themselves and complain, obviously, about the situation. And this is important, that you share experiences. But what you need is actually men who will, I mean, listen to it, and who will be aware of the problems, recognize the problem, and do something about it. And I'm very optimistic, actually. I mean, I think I know in my field many senior men who are very, very supportive of
But do you see these changing in your students?
Yes. The students, I see it at policy at KU Leuven. If you look, we have equal, at least in the sort of number of vice rectors, it's perfect gender balance, 50-50. I think the whole team, I think it's a signal that you say, okay, we want to be more gender balanced. It's a conscious decision that you want to have more women on boards and among students. I don't think that students notice that much. I personally didn't notice any gender issues when I was young. I mean, okay. I noticed it later, because then later you recognize, oh gosh, what happened to all these girls around me? I mean, they all disappeared, and I'm the one. And but when you're a student, I think very few students actively feel why would they? They're balanced, they're 50-50. I mean, girls, boys in general. I think it comes later in life. I mean, at least later in the career, at least in my case. I don't know what you think. I mean, when you probably were aware of the problem earlier.
So, depending on which faculty, I mean, psychology, it's all female students. It's all master students are female. All the postdocs are female, and the four professors are male.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So we have the women, but then suddenly, there's this. Yeah, this is my situation. So
on the other side, because I'm a geologist, so in my class in the undergrad, there were 5 women out of 50 people total. So that's the kind of ratio we start with. So you can imagine by the time we become professors, there are very, very few of us.
But how did you feel as a student? Did you feel sort of uncomfortable or strange or weird? I mean, or was it okay?
Not necessarily, because I think it was more like what you said, that our awareness kind of grows as we move further on our career. So I think during the undergrad, it was more a matter of a joke that we have 5 women out of 50. It's like we're competing for each year who had the least, women, etc. But if I look back now, I obviously identify a lot of problems that I wasn't necessarily aware at the time. But yeah, I think, but I also think, and kind of going in the positive message that the future is brighter, that the students that are there now, every time I go back, they are really more aware about all of these issues, and they're discussing these, and they're doing roundtables, they're doing protests. So it kind of like, it gives you a good feeling, you know, that like things are moving in the right direction.
Good. Yeah, me too. I also think so. I'm optimistic, but
Yeah, I have a great feeling regarding the next generations. I think that they are going through something very big trouble, and they will rise quite hangry, but in the end they will come out as a hard people. I really believe in that. I really believe in that. And I think, I don't know if we have a very last time for the very last question, maybe from I don't know, Renata, what do you think? Or because I see 2 questions here. I don't know if we have time to go through both.
I think we can try to go through them very quickly. So starting with May, so these will be our very last 2 questions. So you talked a bit about the initiatives from KU Leuven, but do you know of any other initiatives to correct the either lower or higher levels of productivity during the quarantine, maybe at the Belgian level as part of Bewise, or something that you heard anywhere else?
We from Bewise launched actually a questionnaire for our members, and also we spread it. I can share the link afterwards. But
yes,
how
please.
people felt, about the quarantine and how it affected their productivity. Something that can be, hopefully a guidance for the guidelines that will be taken, the measures. I got many phone calls from a lot of people from different universities with the same concern. So I tried to bundle them together, and at least we will have something that will be written down and then sent to universities together with hopefully the Young Academy in Belgium. So let's see. But first we have to signal the problem and see how big it is. So I will send you the link to the enquete now. Then
yes,
everybody can.
We will share it in the comments of the videos on YouTube and Facebook. So
and also probably in the next days we will do a dedicated posts in our social. So it will be.
That's a very nice initiative. Yeah. Sorry.
And no worries. And I will close with this question, which I found very interesting and very true. So thank you, David, for the question. And the question is, thank you for the interesting discussion. Recently, there have been reports that countries with female leaders have reported better to COVID-19. What lessons do you think we have drawn from these?
I think we all think about the same conclusion here, right? I think there's only one. Yeah.
Me too. Actually, I have to say that me too. Definitely, because we have, especially right now, in many countries, examples of very bad leader that they are trying to compensate, to say politely, and all of them are men. So. And this is something that we cannot. I have no argument.
Curious,
to go around that. No. It's.
I think there are many studies that have shown that women and men have, in general, different types of leadership, and that and that we have to now reevaluate whether this is considered as a leadership where you're tough and sort of autocratic and whether this is the best way to lead anything. I mean, let alone a country. I mean, so I think that future generation, and I think men in general, can also learn from females that, I mean, being a good leader, it's not about being tough and autocratic and do tough talk, but to cooperate, to listen, to understand, and so on. So I think.
In the end, this is one of the main point of feminism. The idea that there is another way, which is not the way that patriarchism is always put there, where actually you need to be the strongest. You can achieve a lot even if you don't do it in this way. But
I think that now many articles that now show that, I mean, one of the reasons why we are now, I mean, the whole world is in a crisis. If you look, I mean, you know, how this year started from, I mean, you know, COVID crisis to, you know, crash of whatever stock market to riots in America. I mean, so we are really, I mean, not in a good place, but this has been years of leadership by some wrong men, actually. I mean, you know, I think, and there was an article that said, okay, I mean, we have to now re-examine whether the way that world was led in the last, I don't know, 50 years by mostly men is the best way to lead, I mean, you know, countries, and whether this is really driving this world to catastrophe in general, that we have to reevaluate, I mean, you know, how we want, where are we going to? And so I think that is exactly the question is, we probably need more up there.
Yes, as we were saying, Tatiana, was this the point that we need probably to change our way to behave if we want to speed up all these women, men balance, but also the society, because we need a change. We need a change. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Let's be part of this change. That's the take-home message of today for whoever is still listening.
This is the take-home messages. That's for sure. That's for sure. And so I'm afraid that we have to stop here. And thank you so much, Tatiana and Ann, to be with us. It was very interesting. Yeah. I hope that everybody enjoyed the talk. And here now you have also the link directly for this very short poll that was organized from Bewise, I guess, if I'm not wrong, from Anneke. Thank you so much for your help. And as always, I want to say thank you to our guests. Yeah, and I want to say thank you to all the guys in the background that are helping here today, Michael, Anna, Marion. Thank you so much for this. And you can follow us on all the socials with Pint of Science Belgium or Couch of Science. You can follow also Bewise. I think you are in... could you remember the website? Just
www.bewise.be.
Okay, so very, very easy. Perfect. And also, I think you are in LinkedIn, in Facebook, and Twitter, I guess. So go there and have a look.
Facebook and LinkedIn.
And I think for now, it's for today, it's all. I don't know, Renata, help me if I forgot something. As always, probably I'm forgetting something, but...
No, but just maybe to let everyone know that we're going on a bit of a summer break. But
yes,
we will keep you informed, because we'll be back with some special events ahead of the festival in September.
Yes. We are preparing a very, very huge surprise for the festival. And thank you so much again also to our audience. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye, and thank you again.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.